I just said it. Oh my God. Moment of full transparency. I'm very nervous right now. I don't know. Come on, let's go. I think we get the point. Come on. Hey guys, hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear me. It is 8:30 in the morning on Tuesday. This is the week of Thanksgiving, and if you know, you know, that means it's gonna be a short work week. Yesterday when I left work, I quickly realized that my tire was essentially flat. Our back tire has like a slow leak, and long story short, we got a tow, got it fixed, came home, or got what we thought was the problem fixed. The valve had broken where you put the air in, and they said the tire itself was fine, so they just fixed the valve. I just went out to get to the car. I was going to take the girls to daycare. Jared was planning to stay home anyway, and the tire was completely flat. So we essentially got it fixed yesterday, and nothing actually got fixed. So Jared's trying to go take care of that now. Because it's 8:30, well now 8:40, I was on my way to court. I can't appear in person because I have no vehicle to get there. So I'm going to have to appear via Zoom and work the rest of the day from home. The girls are playing in the room. I'm going to have to make them breakfast now since they're not going to daycare, which is usually where they do their breakfast on the weekdays. I think Jared's going to want some of this. Once I'm done with this, once I'm done with court, I think I'm going to go ahead and talk to you guys about the books that I plan to read by the end of the year. I'm going to tell you right now, it's a very, very ambitious list. Very ambitious. So, you know. Also, I just wanted to point out how coordinated she was today. Okay? Slight beat in the face. I literally like never wear makeup. Okay, I had time. Nails are done. Look, the glow up is glowing. All right, and I may have seen a little muscle in the arms when I was changing today. Just saying. Winter arc is winter arcing, but I'm about to change because I'm about to play with two toddlers and I need to save this outfit. You will see it again very soon, probably for Thanksgiving. Oh, and she's got pockets. All right, y'all. Moment of full transparency. I'm very nervous right now for some reason. I don't know. But we're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this. Okay, so I had told you guys earlier that there are some books that have been on my TBR for quite some time. So much so that I told myself in this last month, I'm gonna try to push myself to reading as many of these books as I can. I am basically what you would call a mood reader. Read based off how I'm feeling in that moment, like what I'm feeling like reading. And often that's why I end up reading so many books at once, is because I'll get to starting a book and then being in the mood for a different book and then start a different book. And then when I'm in the middle of that second book, I'm in the mood for a different book, but not the first book. So stuff like that is why I end up reading so many books at once. But then I've obviously told you guys I get a little overwhelmed when I'm reading like 5 books at a time. So I'm trying to do better with that. And so my goal is in this last month to kind of refine down my expectations and hone my focus in on the books that I am dedicating to reading within a certain amount of time. And this is what I mean. So basically what I want to do is, instead of my usual 5 books at a time, 4 books at a time, if I commit to only reading at most 3 books at a time, I can probably get through a lot more of these books because I'll focus more of my attention on that story and maybe get through the story a lot quicker. I'm finding that when I read so many books at once, it takes me a little bit longer because I'm trying to figure out which story I want to get into. And that decision fatigue sometimes leads me to not making a decision at all and not reading at all. So I'm going to commit to focusing on these books that I've selected here. And I've selected a wide range as far as genre is concerned. So I'm hoping that by doing that, I don't have that problem of not being in the mood for one book or another, because I have options. And these are the options that I have chosen to focus my efforts on when it comes to reading this last month of the year. Typically, I probably average 2, maybe 3 books a month if it's a good month, but 2 books a month is pretty much where I'm at. I think there have been a couple months where I was able to read more than 2. Typically that happens when the books are a lot shorter. But the books I've selected here are not all the shortest books, and they're not going to be in any particular order, just kind of how I grab them. So let's go ahead. I will not obviously be providing any spoilers because I haven't read any of these books, but I will be reading from whatever's on the jacket of the book itself. If there is no information on the jacket, I'm going to be looking to Goodreads or Fable or one of those apps to give me a synopsis of the book that I can share that doesn't involve any spoilers. But if you don't want to hear any of these synopses at all, I'm just going to leave a list of the books that I'm going to be talking about and the ones I'm planning to read. But I am going to be reading the synopses that are on those platforms. So if for some reason you don't want to hear the synopses and you want to go through these books blind, this probably isn't going to be the best, TBR list for you. But I will leave a list of the books that I'm planning to add to my TBR for the end of the year if you're interested. All right, now I know I said these weren't in any particular order, but I am going to start with the books that I am currently reading. So if you have been watching the last few of my videos, you will, some of these will be familiar to you. The first one is the one that I am probably going to be finishing first out of all of these books because I'm the furthest along in this one, and that's Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. A lush cottagecore tale full of stolen spell books, unexpected friendships, sweet jams, and even sweeter love. Keela has always had trouble dealing with people. Thankfully, as a librarian at the Great Library of Elysium. That's what the word is. At the Great Library of... I just said it. Oh my God. At the Great Library of Elysium, she and her assistant Kaz, a magically sentient spider plant, have spent the last decade sequestered among the Empire's most precious spell books, preserving their magic for the city's elite. When a revolution begins and the library goes up in flames, she and Kaz flee with all the spell books they can carry and head to a remote island Keela never thought she'd see again, her childhood home. So, essentially, that's the book. And I can say that because I think I've only got maybe 100 pages left. Not even, no, less than 100 pages left. And that's essentially the whole premise. Keela and Kaz are escaping from this revolution that's happening, and they go to her childhood home, a place that she has not seen since she was a child and her parents left that place. She has since then gone through a lot as a young adult. I think she's a young adult. That's kind of the vibes it's giving. And so when she comes back to her childhood home, and everybody kind of remembers her and her family, she gets to kind of relive some of those experiences that she had in the past. And it kind of goes through, all the adventure that's involved in her trying to keep these spell books secret, while doing some good at the same time. And I'll kind of just leave it at that. If you are into fantasy, this would be a good pickup for you. If you are into like some type of adventure, not super climactic, not super stressful, if that makes sense at all, but kind of laid back story, cozy vibes, I would pick this up. There is some romance. Again, I only have 100 pages left, 0 spice, okay? And I can confidently say I would be surprised if I got to any point of any spice in this book. It just doesn't get that kind of vibe. And this is perfect for, rainy day reads, snowed in reads. Like, this is just very cozy. Again, not a high level stress, not a lot that you need to digest. It's a very easy read. It's very easy to follow. I think when I started reading this, I was having a hard time just because the fantasies I usually read involve like a lot of dragons and war and things like that. So this was a little outside of that genre for me, as far as fantasy goes. But once I was able to kind of get into it, good story. I'm not done with it yet, and I want to wait till I get to those last 100 pages because, again, I've told you guys, it only takes a few pages, a few lines to ruin a whole book, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So I don't have a rating for this yet, but I am looking forward to finishing this before the end of the year. All right, the next book is Tender is the Flesh. This is another one I told you guys that I'm currently reading. I did tell you when I started reading this that I felt like it was going to take me a while to get into. I am still only at page 50. The writing of this one is a little difficult to get into. And I think it's mainly because it's written in third person. So just know that going in. But for those of you who don't know, here's the synopsis. Working at the local processing plant, Marcos is in the business of slaughtering humans, though no one calls them that anymore. His wife has left him, his father is sinking into dementia, and Marcos tries not to think too hard about how he makes a living. After all, it happened so quickly. First, it was reported that an infectious virus has made all animal meat poisonous to humans. Then governments initiated the transition. Now, eating human meat, special meat, is legal. Marcos tries to stick to the numbers, consignments, processing. Then one day he's given a gift, a live specimen of the finest quality. Though he's aware that any form of personal contact is forbidden on pain of death, little by little he starts to treat her like a human being. And soon he becomes tortured by what has been lost and what might still be saved. So, premise is humans are being processed for meat. There's an infectious virus. We can no longer eat, and I say we as like I'm part of the story, but people can no longer eat, your beef, your chicken, your pork. Now they're eating human meat to survive. So, still getting into this one. No real complaints outside of the fact that this is just a different type of reading style for me. Writing style, I'm sorry. It's a different type of writing style for me. But we're going to give it a try because it's short. And that's the least I can do. Okay? All right, this next one is a romance. This one is Can't Get Enough by Kennedy Ryan. This is the third book in the Skyland series. I did read the first 2 books. I rated them, if not 5, 4.5 stars. Amazing, amazing, amazing romances. And I'm not really a romance girly. So love, love, love Kennedy Ryan's writing. She really draws you into the story. She makes you connect to the characters in a way that like makes them family, makes them friends. So love her way of writing, like love her writing style. So the Skyland series follows a group of friends, 3 women who, you know each other from different walks of life, and they kind of have like this small friend group of the 3 of them. And each book kind of tells the story of each of those friends. This book is the last in the Skyland series. As far as I know, it's the 3rd one, okay? And I say it's the last because they're 3 friends. So I'm just assuming. It may be the last one. Hopefully not. I don't know. So the first 2 followed the first 2 friends, and this one follows Hendrix, the last friend of the friend group. And I'll just read the back. I'll just give a little bit. Because if you, I don't know, I'll just give a little bit. Hendrix Bailey lives a fabulous life. She has phenomenal friends, a loving family, and a thriving business that places her in the entertainment industry's rarefied air. Your vision board? She's probably living it. She's a woman with goals, dreams, ambitions, always striving upward. And in the midst of everything, she's facing her toughest challenge yet. Caring for an aging parent. Who has time for romance? From her experience, there's a low ROI, return on investment, on relationships. She hasn't met the man who can keep up with her anyway, until him. And then it goes on to talk about him. But he's not the point of the story. Hendrix is the point of this story. I'm just kidding. But no, for real. I just wanted to give a little snippet of that. I think the books are meant to be read in order. And as someone who read the first 2 books, I feel like as of now, I haven't finished this one, but as of right now, I would say you don't need to read them in order. That's what I would say right now. Take that with a literal grain of salt. Like maybe don't even take what I said at all. Okay. But like literally take that with a grain of salt. Okay. Because I haven't finished this one yet. So for all I know, this one could wrap everything up and I could be totally wrong. But my reading of the first 2, I didn't feel like anything I got from the first one would have ruined the second one if I read the second one first, and you know what I mean? But I haven't finished this one yet, so I could be wrong. But I'm excited to finish this one before the end of the year. All right, this is not the last book, but it's the last book that I'm currently reading. I'm currently reading 4 books right now at once. This is the one I'm also currently reading. I'm reading this one on my Kindle though, and not this one. I didn't figure out how to jailbreak my Kindle, so I'm always getting the ads for the other books that are, new releases. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, I want to say, is the book. Let me check. Yes. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. That's the next book I'm reading because I just finished Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So far, Order of the Phoenix was my favorite. So far. I just loved the banter. All of the little snips and undercuts and little jabs, especially Professor McGonagall. That was my favorite book so far. But also my least favorite, because if you know, you know. But so far my favorite one. Yeah, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, that's the next one that I'm reading. Don't really need to give a synopsis of that. We're just continuing on the tale of following Harry Potter. I will say, if you're new here, I just recently got into reading about a couple years ago. Got back into reading after not, really being interested in it for some time. And in getting back into reading, I decided to read the Harry Potter series because it was a series I never read as a kid, nor watched any of the movies. So I'm going in completely blind. And this has been an exciting ride. So continuing on the Harry Potter train with book number 6. All right, I do have 5 more in my lineup. And these, again, are the 5 books, in addition to the ones that I'm currently reading, that I'm planning to finish before the end of the year. The next one is Sula by Toni Morrison. Again, when I was getting back into reading, my main goal was just to read. I just wanted to read. And I wanted to read stuff that made me happy, like things that brought me joy, and by joy, I don't necessarily mean that what was in the pages brought me joy, because sometimes this stuff is heartbreaking, okay? But really that just the act of reading, I got that joy back in doing that action, right? So part of that was me trying to figure out what I enjoyed reading, and I think I had an idea of what that was for so long based off of my lifestyle at the time. I was a very type A, still, admittedly I am, type A person. And so my main focus was productivity, how to, manage my time more wisely and things like that. So I was reading a lot of self-help books, how to be the best version of yourself type books, right? That was where I lived for a long time, y'all. Like after high school, that's where I lived. Being in college, working at the same time, like all these things had me feeling like I was in constant grind mode. And so I was only reading self-help books. And so when I got back into reading, now in my, more adult years, I was like, I need to figure out what I enjoy reading. And another one of the things that I enjoyed reading was thrillers. But again, it was like there's so much out there and I wasn't even touching the surface, like barely digging into what was available to me because I was stuck in what was comfortable. So I'm like, let me step out of my comfort zone and start reading some other books. And that's when I started getting into romance. I don't think I ever really read romance, to be honest. Yeah, no, I don't think unless Romeo and Juliet could be considered, I think it's more of a tragedy. But yeah, I never really even read romance until I started getting back into reading. And part of that conversation I was having with myself, because I do talk to myself sometimes, the thought that I was having with that was, I won't know what I'm interested in if I don't try everything, right? So one thing that I was like, this is a must for me, was exploring Toni Morrison's catalog, okay? I had never read a Toni Morrison book, ever. And I did not like that. I could say that. And I can't say that anymore, okay? I read The Bluest Eye earlier this year. That's her first book, and that was the first Toni Morrison book that I read. I enjoyed it. It was also kind of small like Sula is, and I believe this is her second one. I'm trying to read them in order as she wrote them so that I can experience her progression as a writer as she is writing these texts. And I enjoyed that one. It was a completely different writing style than I'm used to, but it was one that I was able to quickly get into and get the message that was being delivered behind it. So yeah, I enjoyed that. And so I was very much so excited to get into the rest of her catalog. So Sula, like I said, I believe this is the second book that she wrote. And I'm just going to read the short synopsis that's on the back. Two girls who grow up to become women. Two friends who become something worse than enemies. Toni Morrison tells the story of Nell Wright and Sula Peace, who meet as children in the small town of Medallion, Ohio. Their devotion is fierce enough to withstand bullies and the burden of a dreadful secret. It endures even after Nell has grown up to be a pillar of the Black community and Sula has become a pariah. But their friendship ends in an unforgivable betrayal. Or does it end? Terrifying, comic, ribald, and tragic, Sula is a work that overflows with life. I'm excited for this. I can't really even describe Toni Morrison's writing, but I guess that's the description I would give, is that it doesn't have, like, I'd have to give it so many different adjectives to even be able to explain. It's kind of one of those things you just have to experience for yourself. And I could understand if it's not for everybody, because I don't think it's meant to be for everybody, But that's another one I plan to finish before the end of the year. For this next book, it kind of made me realize why I was picking up certain books. I was telling you guys how when I got back into reading, I was searching for what I enjoyed reading. What did I like to read, right? And in trying to figure that out, I frequently found myself, on Book Talk or BookTube and listening to the recommendations that other, creators or influencers were saying about certain books. And I mean, I didn't look at it any different than, when you are shopping online for something and you want to see what the reviews are to determine if it's worth, your purchase. I was looking at it for the same reason. It's like, okay, these are books that are written, for human consumption and enjoyment. And I want to see how other people are taking that. The difference, I think, is when you're talking about a product that you're trying to use for a specific purpose, everybody knows it needs to carry out that purpose. And when it comes to a book that comes with it, themes and opinions and sometimes research and, analysis on that research, topics that are heavy, topics that are light. Everybody feels differently about all those different things. And so while one person can recommend a book to me and say it's great, another person on the other side of the street can say they hated it. And both of those are valid. So I'm saying that because this next book is another romance that I saw recommended by a few creators who really enjoy romance books. Like they really enjoy reading romance. Like a majority of the books that they read throughout a year are romance books. Me, I'm trying to be more diverse in my reads until I can figure out what I enjoy. Right now, romance is not my go-to. It's not the first thing I'm going to grab. So I don't know how this one's going to be because it was recommended by someone who really enjoys romance. And that is The Air He Breathes by Brittany Cherry. I've never read anything by Brittany Cherry, so this will be my first Brittany Cherry read. I have heard nothing but good things, honestly, about this author. But again, my algorithm, maybe that's why. So I am excited to get into this one. I'll read the synopsis really quick on the back. It just says, I was warned about Tristan Cole. Stay away from him, people said. He's cruel, he's cold, he's damaged. It's easy to judge a man because of his past, to look at Tristan and see a monster. But I couldn't do that. I had to accept the wreckage that lived inside of him because it also lived inside of me. We were both empty. We were both looking for something else, something more. We both wanted to put together the shattered pieces of our yesterdays. Then perhaps we could finally remember how to breathe. That doesn't tell me much. And I kind of enjoy that. I kind of like going into a book fairly blind. Oh. Okay. Oh, did she sign it? I don't think that's real. Yeah, no, it doesn't look real. You can always tell when a signature's real if you hold it up to the light, right? Because if it was a marker, you'd see it bleed through. That's very much giving print. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad. All right. The next one is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This one is a thriller. Again, I was telling you guys, I usually gravitate toward thrillers. So the fact that this is, I think this is the only thriller I have in my compilation of books to read by the end of the year. I tried to mix it up, and you'll see with the last couple of books that I had that all of the genres are kind of everywhere, and that was my intent. I got a little fantasy, got a little horror, got a little romance. So I'm mixing it up for that reason, so I can really dive into each and every different type of genre, at least through one book or another, and figure out which one grabs my attention the most so I can build my TBR for 2026. Okay, so House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I'll read the back of this one. And it says, be careful what you watch for. Casey Fletcher, a recently widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press, has retreated to the peace and quiet of her family's lake house in Vermont. Armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of bourbon, she passes the time watching Tom and Catherine Royce, the glamorous couple living in the house across the lake. They make for good viewing. A tech innovator, Tom is powerful, and a former model, Catherine, is gorgeous. One day on the lake, Casey saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a budding friendship. But the more they get to know each other and the longer Casey watches, it becomes clear that Catherine and Tom's marriage isn't as perfect as it appears. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Casey immediately suspects Tom of foul play. What she doesn't realize is that there's more to the story than meets the eye, and that shocking secrets can lurk beneath the most placid of surfaces. I've also never read anything by Riley Sager, so I'm excited to go into the end of the year completely like fresh, right? I don't want to keep diving into things that I'm like, I this is my expectation. I want you to meet that expectation. Here's the thing. The past few books I read have been by authors where I've read their books before. And so I had an expectation going in that I was going to get at least something of that from them in the next book that I read by them. So my expectations were high. And I'm going to leave. I'm not going to say who it was. I'm not going to say because it's more than one. But you know, my expectations were just really high for these books and they did not meet my expectations. So I was very disappointed. So I'm going to enjoy going into these books by authors I've never read. So therefore I have no expectation. Okay. This I don't remember. I'm sure this was a recommendation by somebody or somebody's. I can't remember what their rating was. So again, I'm going into this knowing nothing but what I read on the back. We're down to the last two. This one, I don't know. So, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I'm told this is science fiction, and I used to be a sci-fi girly. You wouldn't believe me, but I was. I used to watch the Sci-Fi Channel when we had like cable back in the day. I might enjoy it. Let me just read it for you. Okay? His wife taken, his people enslaved. Driven by a longing for justice and the memory of lost love, Darrow will stop at nothing to bring down his enemies, even if he must become one of them to do so. Okay, so I had to get the synopsis that I had read because that wasn't all of the synopsis. All right, so I'm not going to read the whole synopsis. I am going to read a good chunk of it. I did have to pull it up on my Kindle because for some reason I thought there was more about it in here because I do remember reading this. Maybe I read it on my Kindle. So the synopsis for Red Rising says this. Darrow, not Darrow, O-W, Darrow. Darrow is a red, a member of the lowest caste in the color-coded society of the future. Color-coded. Like his fellow Reds, he works all day believing that he and his people are making the surface of Mars livable for future generations. Yet he toils willingly, trusting that his blood and sweat will one day result in a better world for his children. But Darrow and his kind have been betrayed. Soon he discovers that humanity reached the surface generations ago. Vast cities and lush wilds spread across the planet. Darrow and the Reds like him are nothing more than slaves in a decadent ruling class. Okay, maybe I didn't read that synopsis. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. And now that I read it, I don't know what I think I must have read a synopsis for something else because that sounds good. And I already feel like I know where it's going. Yeah. This may have to be in the rotation quickly. I'm excited for this one. All right, you guys, we made it to the last book. I told you this was an ambitious list for me. And I'm fully anticipating I'm not going to get all of these read by the end of the year. But you have to try. Okay, so this one is part of the reason why this is super ambitious is because two of the books on this list are very long, right? So we have Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I'm knowing that's 600 plus pages. Gotta be. But this one, she's really big. She's really thick. She's thick. This one is over 550 pages. All right, this is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This is a historical fiction. Another reason I picked it up, because I have not, in a very long time, have not read any historical fiction. I think all of my historical fiction reads were when I was in high school, and I had to read them. So this will be something I read because I want to read it. Now, I'm also told that there may be other elements to this that I'm not considering. I do know that a lot of people who've read this said it made them cry. And if you know me, I'm a big baby, okay? So I just don't want to be too devastated trying to read this. Because she's a thick girly, the chances of me listening to this on audiobook as well, very high, okay? I'd be surprised if I didn't read this whole thing through audiobook. But I do like having, a book in my hand, and she's got a good feel to her. I like her pages. I like her cover. So this is the last book I intend to read by the end of the year. And not last as in the last one, because I might read this one first. Who knows? Okay, so here's the synopsis. With courage, grace, and powerful insight, best-selling author Kristen Hanna captures the epic paranoia. So the synopsis reads, with courage, grace, and powerful insight, best-selling author Kristen Hanna captures the epic panorama of World War II and illuminates an intimate part of history seldom seen, the Women's War. The Nightingale tells the story of two sisters separated by years and experience, by ideals, passion, and circumstance, each embarking on her own dangerous path towards survival, love, and freedom in German-occupied, war-torn France. A heartbreakingly beautiful novel that celebrates the resilience of the human spirit and the durability of women. It is a novel for everyone, a novel for a lifetime. So, looking forward to reading that one too. This one's been on my TBR for a while, I'm not gonna lie. So, and I think that's because it's so thick. So I fully anticipate reading most of this using audiobook just to, push through it. But that's essentially what I'm planning to read, hopefully, by the end of the year. But that Red Rising is definitely calling my name. But I am going to spinach. Y'all help me. I am going to finish Spell Shop. I'm going to try to probably get some more of that done tonight since I only have about 100 pages left. But leave your recommendations down in the comments if you have any books that you think I would enjoy reading. Again, we're just kind of trying everything at this point. So just let me know what you're reading, and if you think there's something I'd be interested in, go ahead and leave it in the comments. And with that, you guys, I will catch you in the next video. Bye for now.